وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. Inshallah ta'ala, before I start my talk, I just want to apologize. I usually move the birds that are in our living room, so you're going to be hearing a lot of background sound, and I'm sorry for that. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, hopefully this reminder is beneficial and effective, and it gets us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I wanted to provide just a very hypothetical story. Maybe some of us are dealing with this now that Ramadan has ended, and we're almost a week away from completing Ramadan. There's a father. He asked his son, we should do our Isha prayer, and the son responded by saying, "Dad, why do we have to pray? Ramadan is over." And remember, we don't worship Ramadan, but instead we worship the Rabb of Ramadan. And to a lot of the youth who probably struggle with praying 5 times a day, I'm hoping that this is something that you were able to establish this past month, and you were able to be consistent with. Because prayer for a Muslim is probably the greatest gift for the believer. And sometimes we don't realize the backstory of when the prayer was given, the salah, the namaz was given to our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Matter of fact, I think a lot of us, when we read the seerah of our Prophet, it's just very like a Google search in a way. We Google search and there's bulletin points. Okay, he was born on this date. He received his prophethood on this date. He got married at this age. He had these many children. At times it's not very detailed. And the year that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam received this gift of prayer was a very tough year for him. It was the 11th year of his prophethood, and this year in the seerah is known as the year of grief and sorrow, where he was hit with multiple personal tragedies. The first tragedy is that he lost his wife, Khadija radiallahu anha. And Khadija radiallahu anha, I can very easy, it's when you read the seerah, you can see from the seerah that Khadija radiallahu anha was the love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life. He was married to her for 25 years. And there's a lot of us who haven't been born, who haven't been alive for 25 years. So this was a large period of time that he's married to this woman who, through this woman, he was blessed with all of his children. Matter of fact, Khadija radiallahu anha was the first to accept Islam. And when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in the cave of Hira and he received his prophethood, it was her that provided him this reassurance, and she reminds him about his character. Khadija radiallahu anha was the individual who provided him support during his difficult times. She was his backbone. And even after she passed away, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam remembered her constantly. He remembered her constantly. There was a convoy from Yemen, and normally when convoys would come and visit the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they would provide him with gifts. So one time he was given a gift, a beautiful shawl-like material, and he told one of his companions to go give it to this lady who happened to be the friend of Khadija radiallahu anha. It was her friend. So even after she passed away, he was he was he was maintaining the ties of his wife, because this is something that he had a close connection with her. Um, one of the companions asked, after she passed away, he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how was she? How was her character? How was she to you? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he provided an expression and said that, you know, uh, she was, she was just who she was, meaning he was speechless. He didn't have the words to describe her. So the relationship that he had with Khadija radiallahu anha was was a remarkable relationship that he had. Um, at every moment, he would always think about her. Even even later on when he got remarried to Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha, Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha even narrates this incident where, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would make it a point to always remember her after her death, even after many years later. And one time Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha asked, why do you even remember her? Allah's blessed you with something, more, like someone younger, referring to herself. Why do you remember her? And that struck a nerve with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His vein in his forehead, it was apparent, and he got really upset. And then he started to mention all of the things that Khadija radiallahu anha did for him. He said that she believed in me when nobody believed in me. She financially supported him. She gave him, she provided him with children. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, during the 11th year of his prophethood, he lost his wife. But not just did he not only lose his wife, he lost his uncle, Abu Talib, Abu Talib. And when we think of uncles or chachas, some of us might have a very close relationship with our uncles, and some of us might just have a relationship where we just want to meet them once a year and it's not a big deal. But Abu Talib was more than an uncle to the Prophet. He was his father, he was his mother, he was everything to him, because we know the Prophet ﷺ lost his parents and his grandparents at a very young age. And Abu Talib loved the Prophet ﷺ more than his own kids. Even the people of Quraysh would say that whenever we saw Abu Talib, we always saw the Prophet ﷺ with him at all times, so they would always be together. And when Abu Talib, not only before he passed away, there was another tragedy that was associated with that. And that was that Abu Talib did not accept Islam before he passed away. At his deathbed, the Prophet ﷺ, he went to go visit his uncle, and all the chiefs of the Quraysh were there. And the Prophet ﷺ, he whispered in his ear, and he said, "Uncle, if you can just say La ilaha illallah, if you can just accept Islam, whisper it in my ear, and I can testify on the day of Qiyamah that you accepted Islam." And whenever the Prophet would talk, Abu Jahl, he would start to shout, so Abu Lahab couldn't hear it. And then, unfortunately, Abu Lahab passed away not accepting Islam. And that was a very tough tragedy for the Prophet ﷺ, that his uncle passed away without accepting Islam. And this is a very famous ayah in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Qasas, where he says that, guidance doesn't come from you. Guidance comes from me, from Allah. You cannot guide the people, those who you love. Allah guides whomever He wills. In a way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was providing, He was consoling the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to tell him, this is not your fault. And this is something that was devastating the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For some of us, we might not realize the importance of it, because alhamdulillah, we are Muslims, our parents are Muslims, our grandparents, we come from a long legacy of Islam for people who convert into Islam, who convert into Islam, and then I can. These are conversations that I've had with converts that the first thing that they think about when they wake up, and the last thing that they think about before they go to sleep is that, what is going to happen to their parents because they haven't accepted Islam. So these two important figures, the Prophet ﷺ loses. He loses his uncle and he loses his wife, Khadija radiallahu anha. And the Prophet ﷺ's job, it wasn't easy. His job wasn't just inviting people from Mecca or Medina or Arabia. His job was to invite people all, from all of mankind. And normally when you invite people or you're trying to converse with people, if someone doesn't like you, what do you have to do? What do you normally do? You just avoid them, right? But the Prophet ﷺ has to invite people that don't like him, who keep cursing him and who keep disrespecting him. So this is a very tough job that he has to do. Matter of fact, these words that people would say to him, magician and liar, and just some terrible things they would call him, right? And it would bother him to the point where it would feel heavy in his heart. And even in other ayahs of the Quran, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he consoles the Prophet. He tells him that, if they're accepting is not your loss, don't take it to heart. So it's in that year, in the 11th year of the Nabuwah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is sentenced to heaven. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invites him to the 7th level of the paradise, of the 7th heaven. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gift him with during that time? What does he gift him with? He gifts him with salah. He gifts him with namaz. So that's teaching us something, that when we want to renew our faith and we want to recharge our iman, our salah has to be on point. It has to be on point. Ibn al-Qayyim rahmatullah alayh, he said a person who prays salah is like someone who's knocking on Allah's door. And knocking on Allah's door is not like knocking on any other person's door. When you knock on my door and I'll check who it is, and if it's someone I don't like, I won't open the door. But with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if I keep knocking on his door, inshallah ta'ala, eventually he will open the door. And this gift of prayer, in a way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the Prophet, like, look, you lost your wife, someone who you would share your thoughts with, someone you would, share your grievances with. You lost your father figure, like type Abu Talib, your uncle. Now that I'm giving you this prayer, now you can share those grievances with me. Now you can lighten your burden with me. Like I mentioned before, the Prophet ﷺ, his job was very difficult. He had to invite people who were constantly insulting him, who were degrading him. And what was his escape? It was his prayer. And this prayer, I tell this to a lot of young men and women or people who have a hard time praying 5 times a day now that we're outside of Ramadan. Salah is our greatest gift. Salah is our escape. Our prayer is our healer of all of our problems. When we put our forehead on the ground, that's in that position we are the most closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he uses this metaphor, and he says that prayer is the coolness of my eyes. The prayer is a coolness of my eyes. And this was a phrase that the Arabs would use when they would go through difficulty, meaning that when they would be traveling in the desert and they would be pounded by the heat or a sandstorm. And when they would get in a place of comfort, they would use that term, qurrata a'yun, a place where their eyes feel comfort at. So the Prophet ﷺ, he refers to prayer as the coolness of his eyes. I know it's a very basic reminder, a basic khutbah. I apologize, but I think this is something that we needed to discuss. Normally Ramadan, when it ends, the first, second, third day, it's easier for us to do our prayers. And then as time goes along, then it'll be hard for us to wake up for a Fajr. It'll be hard for us to do our Isha. And unfortunately, these are things that have a domino effect. If I miss my Fajr prayer, then I'll miss my Zohar. And then when I miss my Zohar, I'll miss my Asr. And then my Asr to Maghrib, Maghrib to Isha. Make it a point. This is a reminder to the young men and women, to the high school students, to the junior high school students, and even younger. Make sure, if this was one thing that you could have made a habit out of during the month of Ramadan, was not to miss your prayer, make sure that you don't do that. And if you've missed any of your prayers during the week, it's okay. Today's a new day. Get back up. Be consistent with your prayers. Make sure you're doing them. If you've missed a prayer, just wake up and do your qada, do your makeup prayer, and try to be consistent. Because if you can find solace, if you can find tranquility in your prayer, it can bring the greatest change in your life. Because salah is something that can protect us, not only in this world, but in the hereafter. So I hope this reminder was beneficial. I know it's a smaller, shorter reminder. Inshallah ta'ala, next week, hopefully, I'll provide something a little bit more diligent and lengthy. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you all were able to create wonderful habits during the month of Ramadan. Be consistent, let them keep going, and whatever you do, whatever happens, do not miss your prayer. Be consistent with it, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakallah khair for the opportunity, and if Allah allows, inshallah ta'ala, I'll be seeing you all next week. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Qur'an al-azim, wa nafa'ana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-hakim. Astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa lisa'ir al-muslimin, fastaghfiru إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.